Hey, I've had so many requests for scrap garden ideas or just scrap kitchen ideas, I guess. So I just want to talk briefly about why I've really started focusing on using my scraps up. Um, Ryan and I used to live in an apartment up until about a year and a half ago, and we used to throw away everything. We would recycle what we could, but otherwise, like any of our food that went bad, it all had to go into the garbage because we couldn't compost it. And then when we moved here, we were able to start putting things in the green bin. So we started putting everything in the green bin, from our food scraps, old food that was going bad, coffee grinds, all of that stuff, anything that you could, napkins, anything that we could compost, we did. And I felt like that I was making like such better choices. And while I was making better choices than throwing it in the garbage, it's still not the ideal solution to be putting stuff in the compost just because the city allows you to do so. So what I realized was I was just throwing away so many things and there could be uses for them. So that is really why I'm doing this video today. I want to give you some ideas of things that you can do yourself to stop you from either throwing things out directly in the garbage or even in the compost, because if you can give it something a second use, that is so much better. So the last video that I did was about regrowing things from scraps, and that I did about a week and a half ago, and I just wanted to show you how my celery is doing. So this celery you saw me cut and put in water. I'm keeping it in here. You can see some roots are starting to grow on the bottom, and I will plant it inside my house because my squirrels in the neighborhood like to eat them, so I'm going to keep it inside. So that's my celery. That's such a good celery amount for just a week and a half. And then similarly, here are my green onions that I also cut. So you could see about where I had cut them, and that is how much they have regrown so far. Finally, I also mentioned the banana water. So we've been doing this. Ryan eats a banana every single day in his smoothie. So instead of throwing those in the compost, we have been storing the banana peels with water in a mason jar, and we use it every single day in our garden, and it's just making everything grow so much bigger, and it's so exciting. So today what I'm making is some vinegar infused cleaners. So basically what I do is I use different citrus peels that I keep, and I've started to separate them. So I used to put all my citrus all in the same bag and keep it in my freezer, and now I like to separate them. So I have a lemon bag and an orange bag. Ryan and I eat a lot of like lemon slices in our water to give it flavor, and then instead of throwing those out after or putting them in the compost, we've just been saving them. So you can see I have a full one here. This is lemon thyme oil. There's about 6 cups in here. This full thing is about 8 cups. So I use some thyme leaves in here and lemon scraps and then vinegar, and then I just let it sit for a couple months. I strained out all the peels, and this is what I got. So I'm going to make another one today. So again, I have another empty one, and I have my lemon peels here. They've been sitting in my freezer. Anytime that we use anything with lemons, if I juice a lemon, I keep the peels, or if we use lemon wedges, I just reuse those as well. So I just fill it up as much as I can, use as many as possible. The more that you put in, the stronger the scent will be. So now that this is full to the top, sorry about that, I just put vinegar and I fill it to the top. Then just put the lid on it, put it in a cool place. So if you have like a cupboard, I just put mine in the basement, and you can let it sit for up to 2 weeks for the best results. I sometimes leave mine for months, depending. Like, I have so many vinegars all the time, and literally this vinegar will last like way over a year. Like, you dilute it when you make your cleaner. You take about 1/3 cup of vinegar to 2/3 of water. So I've made floor cleaner and just like an all-purpose spray with that, and you can add your own essential oils to it if you want, but it's not necessary. And I've had mine for about 6 months, and it was just like a small regular mason jar, so it'll last you a long time. Now, aside from just the environmental factor of why I like to do this, is also because I have so much hair. Because it saves you money, and honestly, the products that you're using tend to have a lot of chemicals in them that are not healthy for you. So by using a cleaner that's made out of all natural ingredients, you're really reducing those toxins that are in your home, especially if you have pets or young kids at home. Like my cats, they have the food balls, so they play with them all day long while they eat their food, and their food goes directly on the floor and they eat off there. I don't want them eating toxic floor cleaner, so I would much rather give my floor washing with this, and it's not going to make my pets sick. Okay, so a few more things that I like to do with my scraps from my kitchen. You can, use your coffee grounds and put them in your garden as a fertilizer. It's really good on anything that's acidic, like tomatoes or peppers. But another thing you can do with them is actually make face scrubs. So what you're going to want to do is, if you're using the face scrub the night that you've made coffee, that's fine. You can go ahead and leave them just as is wet. You can add some sugar to it as well if you'd like, or different essential oils. So I really like eucalyptus with it. Or if you want to make them as presents for people, what I suggest doing is actually either leave them out overnight, or dry them out in the oven, depending like how humid it is. I dry mine out in the oven on very low heat, and then you have them and you can make different things with it. If you leave it wet, it will get moldy though, so make sure you get all that moisture out. The next thing that I like to do is make some croutons with any bread that is going bad. As you can see, I clearly love my pasta sauce jars. I reuse them for everything. So for the croutons, I just tear up my bread, put some olive oil and some of my favorite spices on, and then bake it at a very low heat, usually about like 150 for an hour, and then afterwards I just turn off my oven, and while it cools I leave them in there just to dry out for a long time, and then I have croutons that last forever. And then finally, the last thing I like to do with my kitchen scraps is any vegetables that you can't reuse for specific things. I save them and I make vegetable stock out of. You could also do this if you eat meat and you have like chicken bones or stuff like that, or turkey bones. You can make a soup stock. I just use all my vegetables. I keep a bag in my freezer. Anytime I peel my onions, peel my carrots, potatoes, anything, put that in the bag, and then whenever I need some soup stock, you just take the whole bag once it's full, boil it with a bay leaf, some salt, pepper, and obviously all the scraps, and fill it with all water, and then as it simmers for about an hour, you have some delicious, flavorful veggie stock without as much sodium and preservatives that you would get at a grocery store. And then you just keep it for a few weeks, and it lasts quite a while, but you can also freeze it. I like to also put some in ice cube trays, and if I just need a little bit, I can take it out and use it in my recipes. So I hope this inspired you to use up some of your kitchen scraps, whether that's making new products, or just watering your garden with something, or just trying to be creative with what you have on hand. I love it. It is currently plastic-free July, so if you can try and reduce your plastic in some way by using some of these food scraps up, that's even better. If you have any questions whatsoever about anything, let me know. I am not an expert, but I do have a lot of fun in the kitchen trying new things. So enjoy and have fun with your scraps.